Thank you very much, Beverly. Hello, everyone. I'm going to talk today about performing our lives, how music liberates us. And as we know from recent research, as well as an enhancement of brain function, music is of all kinds as a source of inspiration, communication, and transcendence, crossing boundaries of time, space, language, and political differences. Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher, wrote that music was one of the arts which so sharpened our sense of participation in the world that it gave much greater meaning to life. For him, it was not merely a passing pleasure, but one of the things that made living possible. Why is music so important to so many of us? Oliver Sacks, in his book Musicophilia, says, all of us, with a very few exceptions, and I have come across them, can perceive music, perceive tones, timbre, pitch, intervals, melodic contours, harmony, and most importantly and fundamentally, rhythm. We integrate these and construct music in our minds using many different parts of the brain, and to this largely unconscious structural appreciation of music is added an often intense and profound emotional reaction. As well as setting up optimum brain function, music is one of the basic ways in which humans communicate. And yet, how universal is it for music and arts to receive lip service, while musicians and artists feel marginalised and on the fringe of usefulness to society? Beverly gave you my short biography, and you heard of my parents' surprise, rather, at my changing career direction. I suspect that one of my parents' deepest fears was that society would not properly value me as a musician, that I wouldn't be appreciated. I had very good grades at school, I was good in science, I was on track to train as a doctor, and naturally my parents encouraged me in this goal. When the lure of and the curiosity in classical music became too much to resist for me, they raised no objections to my change of focus, but were worried how I'd earn a living. On some level, I think my parents were not sure themselves what the value of music was, what its purpose was, and yet they loved music. They listened to classical music all the time, and they were involved in musical performances and theatre. They just weren't really clear about its function in society. So let me talk a little bit about that, because we live in a society that puts music in the arts and entertainment section of the newspaper, and serious music, the kind I engage with, has absolutely nothing to do with entertainment, I believe. In fact, I think it's the opposite. Music is a basic need of human survival, I believe. Music is one of the ways in which we make sense of our lives, one of the ways in which we express feelings when we have no words, a way for us to understand things with our hearts when we can't with our minds. I don't think of myself as an entertainer. I feel I'm a lot closer to being a paramedic, a firefighter, a rescue worker, a spiritual version of an osteopath, a physical therapist, or someone who works with your insides to see if they can get things to line up, to see if they can come to terms, that things can come into harmony with ourselves and be healthy and happy and well. A higher standard of living does not in itself make life worth living. The arts do so, and among the arts, music is profoundly significant. We singers amongst ourselves have various anecdotes of what people say to us who come up to us after performances, and we appreciate that at times it takes courage for members of the audience to come and say something to us, but we always are so grateful when someone makes that effort. And the comments we've had of things like, you released, your voice made me release my sorrows, released my anxiety, you soothed my soul. And in one case, I had someone say to me, you gave me a reason for living tonight, which clearly had me naturally in tears. As I said before, I believe that music is how we talk to ourselves about ourselves, and I encourage the voices of my students, both literally and metaphorically, to be liberated through performance. inspiring young people to have a fixed point of reference in an unpredictable world, enthusing them about music and performance, even if they choose not to make music their career, helps liberate their voices. I work with all music students at the NZSM, but the ones I work most closely with are, of course, the voice students. And I found there is a sharp divide in focus amongst the young men and women who come to us. About 30% of the students are highly motivated and have had a long background in music, and you can see that the long training and practice of music has helped shape their work ethic and study habits. Many of these students will go on to have a hard but adequate career in the vocal arts. And when I say vocal arts, I mean it. Some, as you have said, have heard, had recent valuable successes in the Alexa Song Quest. Other singers are having good careers, they're earning money, in other words, in music theatre, which is a very hard life. Another student of mine has got a job with the 10 Tenors. He's just completed a 70-city tour of the US, and at the age of 26 has a nice little nest egg to put away, and he's continuing to work with them for the next 3 years. I couldn't think of anything better for him to do. And what about Sole Mio and the trio? All of whom I've worked with, they're all classically trained, but those guys got together, Pene and Anapai and Moses, and made a great deal of communicating their love of music to all of us New Zealanders and Pacifica. However, going back, that's the 30% that are successful, but the other 70% are the challenge for me and need all of my energies to infuse and focus. For some, particularly Māori and Pacifica students, singing is the only thing they know how to do well, the only meaningful form of communication they have. Teaching them how to perform and to sing and communicate in a disciplined way without losing that emotional connection requires for them to rewire their brain. Like any formal discipline, training for a career in classical music or any music if you like, you need to practice every day, because 6 hours on a Saturday does not cut the mustard and does not build your muscle memory. And also, students very quickly find out that you look like an idiot if you haven't learnt your music and memorised it and you stand up in front of your peers. So that's a very, very steep learning curve for many of them. So apart from teaching them the technique of singing, I'm also teaching them about performance, how to sing, how to do the job when the chips are down and you feel terrible, how to perform your life as you wish others to see you. And this concentration on performance skills has a knock-on effect to other forms of communication. The benefits for this group of students, an untapped and valuable resource for New Zealand, is unprecedented. It is a way of giving them a voice that matters, a valuable voice that others will listen to and take notice of. Once these students realise that they will not be marginalised, they can be powerful performers on stage, and this confidence then spreads into other subjects they take, and many become or are becoming role models for their peers in a variety of fields, having got the confidence to stand up in front of a group of people. The idea of creating our own life's performance is the idea of creating our own life's performance, which is cathartic. And of course, performing our lives is what we all do. We create an image that we wish others to see and appreciate it, and it is not too far from performing on stage. Maybe a heightened and exaggerating form of performing, but still our real lives. Music liberates that performance, but to do that and to achieve success in any field, you need persistence. I and others call this stickability grit. And it's interesting to see who has grit instinctively and those who don't have it. My experience is that those who have had it a bit too easy and have never had to make hard tactical choices, who've never had to stick at things and finish them in time, are the ones who struggle in life. However, with our training, and I have to say I'm a bit tough at the university, probably completely unethically, they don't have a lot of choice. I usually tell them to shape up or ship out. I can't be bothered wasting my time if they're not prepared to work hard to learn how to communicate effectively. But once students get organised and do the practice and understand that they're communicating well, get good feedback and quite detailed feedback from us, and get hooked on the reaction from the audiences and experience the thrill of performance, the biggest problem then after that is to convince them that they need to be as good as they possibly can be. Good enough is not good enough. Excellence is what I am after. Our deepest fear is not, I believe, that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Playing small or devaluing yourself does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. I have to say that New Zealanders often promote a culture of not standing out from the crowd and of cutting tall poppies down to size. It's a practice I abhor and is so damaging to our largest resource, our people, particularly our young people. A musicologist, Anthony Storr, describes in his book Music and the Mind, Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher I mentioned before, Nietzsche's perception of music as so significant that it can make worth living seems utterly remote from the mundane preoccupations of Western politicians and educators. Of course, it's right that they should be concerned with raising standards of literacy, with increasing expertise in sciences and crafts, and with equipping men and women with the abilities necessary to earn a living in a world increasingly dominated by technology. But the importance and appeal of music depends on it being a way of ordering human experience. Music exalts life, enhances life, and gives it meaning. It's both personal and beyond the personal. For those who love it, it remains as a fixed point of reference in an unpredictable world. Music is a source of reconciliation, exhilaration, and hope which never fails. Both Nietzsche and Storr are talking about being the receivers of musical experience, the listener. What I'm interested in is the makers of musical experience, the communicators. Our young communicators, our music performers, learn how to communicate effectively, how to lead people. They liberate their voices and are a powerful force in connecting one human being to another human being. Thanks very much. I have no idea about that, and I'm one of those people. Something in me. I'm not at all Russian. I have no Russian antecedents, but give me any Russian music, and I'm there, and I'm out with a hanky, and I just love it. And even the strangest thing is that I don't speak Russian. I speak English, but I'm much better at singing Russian than singing English. I don't know the answer to that, and there's quite a lot of work going on in cognitive neuroscience, particularly in regard to music at the moment, and I don't think they come up with the answer. Some of it has to be your upbringing, of what's around you. And yet I was surrounded by music theatre with Gilbert and Sullivan in particular, and I remember thinking to myself before I went to university that wasn't proper music, and I'm terribly sorry if you like me. Thank you, Margaret.